wanted to start here with the Georgia Bulldogs, of course, and Alabama, both in the college football playoff. Kirby Smart, Nick Saban, both of them met with the media, and the vast majority of the questions they faced, Alabama in particular, was about their team. And I don't want to say these two are looking past their college football playoff opponents, but I think most people, even the biggest Michigan diehards, know it's an uphill climb for the Wolverines to beat the Georgia Bulldogs in the college football playoff. So we could be on for another collision course of SEC teams meeting in the national championship. I'd love it. But before we get to Nick Saban, let's start with Kirby Smart, who the million-dollar question down there in Athens, who's going to play quarterback for the Bulldogs in the college football playoff? Will it be Stetson Bennett? Will it be JT Dales? That was the first question Kirby got. How's the reps going in bowl practice? He wouldn't give up much. And I'm going to rope in a question here about JT Daniels as well.
As far as JT and Stetson goes, I mean, is JT getting any reps at all of the ones, and kind of how is that working out during warm-ups for this game?
Yeah, we don't disclose that information. We just talk about the guys that are doing their job, and all four of those guys have done a tremendous job working with us. Brock's been giving us a great picture down on the scout team end, and JT and Stetson are both really doing a good job of simulating the offense that Micah wants to do. And like I talk about all the time, we're going to play the guy that gives us the best chance to win. And I'm really proud of the way both those guys have practiced. We've done, I guess, 4 or 5 camp-type practices and 2 really focused on Michigan-type practices. And both guys, Stetson and JT, have been really good in terms of locked in and focused on what we need to focus on.
All right, next 2 questions to Mark Weiser and then Charles Odom.
Hey, Kirby, after the injuries that JT dealt with earlier in the season, are you confident that he can play at the level he did in the last 4 games of last season if called upon?
JT's done a tremendous job in all our practices and all our work of being able to be effective and understand what we have to do offensively and making decisions. We get to see him go sometimes against 2 defense, sometimes he gets to go against the 1 defense, depending on what we're working on. And he's done a good job of doing that.
Well, no surprise, really. Kirby keeping things close to the vest, as he always does. Not really getting much indication from anything he said here. And, I really anticipate that's really going to be the case. We won't know who Georgia's starting probably till a day or 2 before the Michigan game. I really think it will come down to that. There's no advantage to letting Michigan know who you're going to play. But, if they make that decision the week of the game, which you got to assume they're going to do, that is going to get leaked out at some point. So here in the next couple of days, JT Dales, Stetson Bennett got to battle this thing out and see who the coaching staff feels more comfortable with. And really that could be the decision that defines the season, and maybe even, I don't want to go crazy here, but maybe defines the success or ultimate failure of Kirby Smart in Athens, because this is a championship roster. Make no mistake about it. This is a team that, hell, we've hit on it. I mean, if they do rematch Alabama, the Vegas odds say Georgia is the favorite to win that football game, but it's going to come down to quarterback play. And for Kirby's sake, I hope he gets it right. But, of course, hey, that ain't the only topic here with the Bulldogs. Coming off a very disappointing defeat in the SEC championship game to Alabama, were the Bulldogs exposed? Again, I think those kind of questions are a little ridiculous, and we're just reacting to one game where they didn't have their best performance and they got beat by the better team that day. Does that wipe out the previous 11 games? No, it does not. I'm not throwing Clemson in there because Georgia, that's the only other game they didn't look dominant this season. So Kirby was asked about his team's response to losing after bowl practice has already begun down there in Athens. So let's kick it over to Kirby on what he's seeing from his team and how they're reacting following the tough loss.
Kirby, when you have a game like the defense had in its last game where I guess exposed is a word people are throwing out, is there balance between reacting to what you saw in that game versus you're about to play an opponent that is probably a different kind of offense that you faced in the last game?
The biggest thing is we're always technical with our players, and we're very truthful and honest. And if you sat in our meetings, you would know that a lot of the games that people might say that we dominated or held guys to lower points, we didn't play real well. So we don't do it any different based on the outcome. We do it based on how we execute, how we perform, not just on statistics. And we've kind of talked to our defense about that. We're very technical and honest. What can we do better? How can we improve? And then how do we take away what the opponent does? And Michigan does a tremendous job. They're very multiple. They have a lot of personnel groupings. They're extremely physical, and they're committed to being physical. And they can play in space. They've got really good athletes. And, you know, we know that they've got a tremendous team. You know, their offense coordinator was at Alabama. He's done a great job. So the challenge is there, and we've worked hard to really work on us fundamentally. You know, self-scout. What are we giving up? What have people seen on us? What changes can we make that would be beneficial for us? And that's really been our focus: is how do we get better fundamentally, not about the last game.
Well, if Georgia is going to bounce back against Michigan, one guy you got to assume has got to play a huge role in doing so, George Pickens. We saw him against Alabama making some plays, and for whatever reason, Georgia kind of went away from that. Maybe they only had a couple plays dialed up for George Pickens. I don't know, but with the added time to keep improving his health after the offseason surgery, you got to assume George Pickens, I mean, he came back for a reason. This is the reason here, to play in these big games like the SEC Championship, like the college football playoff, because all indication he's probably headed to the NFL, and here's his opportunity to improve his stock, win a national championship before his college career comes to an end. And you got to know, if he's good to go, he's going to be demanding the ball, as he should. He's Georgia's most dominant receiver. At least he has been when he's healthy. And if he can regain that form, all of a sudden, Georgia, already a dominant team, is going to be that much better. And that may be the deciding factor in a matchup against Alabama. But George Pickens weeks later, maybe he's that much better in a matchup. They're going to need him. I don't think Georgia can beat, hell, they may not even beat Michigan without a healthy George Pickens. But certainly I don't think they can do it. They can beat Alabama without George Pickens returning to form. And thankfully for the Bulldogs, they got a couple weeks here to go. They've had several weeks to work with him to get him in shape and ready to play in the college football playoff. And, I mean, hell, even Kirby admits he's not 100%, but he's getting closer and closer as time goes on. So I just thought Georgia fans would like to know where's the latest with George Pickens.
Hey, Kirby, I wanted to ask you one, how is George Pickens sort of progressing as he continues to get healthier from that ACL injury? And it always seems like he plays really well in bowl games. Is there a specific reason for that? Is the extra time off in between the games? What's the reason for George always seeming to play at his best in these sort of bowl game situations?
Well, I think the opportunity to throw in the two games you're mentioning, people try to take the run away, and when you do that, you sometimes leave yourself one-on-one, and we've had an opportunity for him to make some plays. Going back, I guess you're referencing Baylor and Cincinnati. He had opportunities to make those plays because he was one-on-one in a lot of situations. He's still not 100%. George is working really hard, but we see him every day, and getting to see him every day is he's working back to get that way, but he is not there. Nobody is. There's no person on earth that comes back from an ACL and is back out there running the same speeds and confidence and breaks that you would usually have. And he continues to get better. The biggest part is understanding, all the details and intricacies of the offense, of making sure he knows splits, shifts, motions, IDs. And when you don't do that for that long, I think everybody just assumes it just comes back natural. That's not something that's you just wake up and do. It takes reps to do that. And he's only been able to start getting these reps in the last really 2 to 3 weeks. But he is getting better, and he is working hard at his craft, and he's gotten a lot of reps the last 4 or 5 practices.